Blue 32! Blue 32! Set! Ha!
All right, hello and welcome to the Grey Matters Weekly Football Wrap-Up and Preview Show. We're going to discuss what caught our attention this week and all the different matchups that we're going to forecast, players to watch, our lock bets for the week. As always, and if you don't already know by now, let me just say it again. Based on what me and Paul were talking about, please do not take any of our comments regarding gambling to be considered advice for you to follow. If you have a gambling problem, please seek help. However, we are not the place to get it. So with that, Andre had his bye week last week. And so this week, Paul is on a bye. So it's just me and Andre this week. So we're going to, what did Anita Baker say? We're going to give you the best that we got.
Man, yeah.
So with that, coming into week 8, week 7 behind us, let's get it started, Andre. What you got?
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and recap a little bit of last week and what caught our attention, because there was some
great week too.
It was some really good games. There was a lot going on. There's a few surprises. You kind of figured that you had a season figured out and what path teams are going to take, but there was a couple teams that gave a little surprise and a little jolt to us. So let's go ahead and go over it. So let's start off with what just caught your attention, like the overall storyline that caught your attention last week, Billy?
I don't think there was anything major that caught my attention. There were a couple of surprises, but nothing major that caught my attention as far as the scores, outcomes of games. The one takeaway I have is that, with the exception of maybe 3 or 4 teams, I'm surprised that everybody almost looks like they're about even.
The same?
Yeah. There's nobody like
the same.
And I'll say it like this. I think I'll say it like this. I think that the Ravens, the way that they handled the Lions, didn't surprise me that they won. I actually expected them to win. The way they did it surprised me, but I do think there's a little bit of overreaction. I think people are overvaluing not the win, but just the way they went. They just destroyed Detroit.
They called them slipping at the beginning, and and the wheels fell off.
And they just was like, "Hey, we ain't catching them. It's not gonna happen, right?" Because you got to the middle of the third quarter, and it was like 35-0.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with that, right? Similar to how Miami destroyed, what was it, Denver? Yeah. And it was just like, by the time you woke up and you got your popcorn and got back to your seat, it was like they down 5 touchdowns. Cheetah done got 2 of them, and they it was just bad. So that, I think it was definitely a statement game. I think people are overreacting a little bit to it, not just in the direction of Baltimore being the best team in the NFL, but also I'm not selling my stock in Detroit. I think Detroit is still probably the 3rd best team in the NFC. The same is true. I think people are kind of jumping off of the Brock Purdy train, when in reality, I don't think it was much of a train to get on. I've always been in that position. I think Brock Purdy's decent, but I think the 49ers actually, if you know what you're looking at, they have other problems that aren't really Brock Purdy centered. Right. And I think the way that they lost and the fact that it ended the way it did, because I don't think Minnesota is nearly the dumpster fire that they've kind of looked. I think they've just, so what was the stat? They won 11 games last year.
They were 11
one game.
They were 11-0 last year with one score.
One score games. Okay. Last night was the first one-score game they won all season. They lost all previous. So they're the opposite in one-score games of what they were last year, which tells me you could just have 1, maybe 2 players different on your 53-man roster. That is the difference. I think that's the one game that everybody needs to really pay attention to,
Please,
because I think Buffalo is in some real trouble. Whereas I think there are certain teams that are starting to trend in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, man, they triage them. They're in emergency. They need to get back, and somebody got to get a doctor to them. They about to bleed out. It's about to get really bad for Buffalo. So that's kind of my takeaway. Other than that, everybody looked like they're 3-4, 4-3, whatever they are. It's like I'm looking for a lot of fun this coming week.
Right. All right. Well, I'll start and kind of with the last team that you said. Not that, last we don't. Please, again, don't take our gambling advice like as actual. Like I'm going to the bank to put money on this because Billy Craig told me this, or that Andre said this, or that Paul said this.
Yeah, because I'm betting on the Bengals every week. So.
But
that ain't working out.
But in the big picture, we are right a lot. Like a lot. Yeah. Just trust me on this. Just go. You can go back and watch the preseason shows.
Yeah,
if you
and
want
it's starting to pan out.
It is like, starting to actually funnel out right now. Yeah. That we, as individuals, we don't talk about what our picks are before we do our preseason show. Your pick is whatever your pick is.
Yep.
But all three of us had the Bills clean out of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I told y'all is they one tap on the glass away from the Titanic sinking. And last week they damn hit the iceberg. They definitely hit the iceberg last week because the Patriots could not score, like literally could not score, and they did not have problems driving down the field for a game-winning touchdown.
Hoodie put out it. People have to realize something about coaches like Bill Belichick, the great ones, even in their decline, or even what you might consider a decline, or when they're not having a great season, or maybe you feel like they're slipping a little bit, they still like eat, drink, and sleep football. He put out a blueprint. That's why it should scare you about Buffalo.
Yes.
Yeah. And you didn't bring this up, but I just want to throw this in there before I forget. Because this goes back to another prediction I had. I'm on Brandon Staley watch.
That is another prediction where we were not wrong. We weren't even close to being wrong.
No.
Yeah.
No. I feel really good about the Chargers in Buffalo that we did in the original show.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's a dumpster fire. As a defensive coach, just they ain't got no offense and they ain't playing no defense. And when the offense do show up, the defense don't. Man. And it's a hot mess over there in LA on that side of the stadium. And it's getting bad quickly there.
Well, the other side ain't that much better. It's just we knew they weren't gonna be.
Well, but at least they're in some games that you didn't expect, and they there's a promise that they're showing. Like the and for the other side of the stadium we talking about the Rams. With the Rams, you can tell there's a youth movement because they said F them picks, so they finally started getting picks, and it's a youth movement, and that's why they're not winning some of the games, even though they remain competitive. Yeah, that ain't the Chargers' problem. The Chargers got veterans. They got vets and all pros all over the place.
There's people that's gonna get gold jackets littered up and down their roster that are not playing together at all.
At all. Mm-mm. There's no reason for them to be 2-4. That's and like some teams you be like, like the Bengals, they start off slow. You like they got to run in them though. They got to, you can.
They're gonna at least make it interesting or something,
right? You're gonna see. I can see a 5-game winning streak and get them on the positive side. I don't see that with the Chargers. Because they got destroyed by the Cowboys. And that's just. Anyway, let's just other interesting stories. So we'll get to real quick the Ravens in Detroit. That was a shock how the wheels fell off there. I did like to see the progress of what the offense could be. Now, consistency is always going to be the key with the Ravens.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll just see how that goes. But for that one game, it looked like a team that's been in big games versus a team that hadn't. Like Detroit wasn't prepared for that.
Nah.
Like,
Nah.
not that. Like they was prepared to play a football game.
Ravens came out like Mike Tyson, and it was just
They wasn't. They did the training, but when the bell, rang and it looked different. Like that's all that was.
This was not what we saw on film this week.
But the Eagles bouncing back was a nice sign.
We expected that though. I mean, who didn't expect that?
I have my money on the Eagles, and it's not because I'm wearing this, like, because I'll oftentimes not bet on my teams just because, but I had them as part of my parlay because I did expect them to bounce back. I was, and the only part that I was really shocked about was the dominance of stopping the run that they did. Yeah. Miami averages 180 yards a game on the ground, and the Eagles held them to 45. They couldn't block, the front there, and that was a little bit shocking to see because Mike McDaniel didn't have an answer. Like he's a really good he's a little quirky. He's a really good football coach, and he's a really good designer of plays. And them things wasn't working. Them things wasn't thanging. But then lastly, I will say, I was shocked by the San Fran Minnesota game. Not because, I mean, wins and losses happen. Like that is what it is. The true any given Sunday thing that reigns true all the time. But I was more shocked the way the defense looked for San Fran.
Yeah.
Minnesota went up and down the field. Like they didn't have many problems. They had to kick a couple field goals instead of touchdowns. When they got down there, had Minnesota been able to capitalize on that, San Fran would have been like it could have been a blowout. Yeah. Like it really could have been. They made him kick a couple field goals, so that was cool. Brock Purdy, he's not like, I think he's above average. He's a solid quarterback. He's not one that I feel like is going to
what not McVay with Shanahan.
Shanahan, he's not going to go above the X's and O's.
He fits exactly what Shanahan.
Right. So he threw a couple of interceptions. The one at the end of the game, I'm not even counting that. He was throwing to 8 men, dropping back. That's just difficult on his own.
That's going on the stats, but that shouldn't even count.
Right. And then the other one that he threw, he threw a square in and he just threw it early. That's all. Like it wasn't a bad read. It wasn't bad, like
don't realize everybody talks about the winning streak. Every game that Brock Purdy has started, except for when he got hurt. Man, cut it out. They got gold jackets all over that defense. Like, stop this. And not to mention, they got a few of them on the offensive side of the ball too.
Absolutely.
They got loaded. So I think, and and I bring this up, and I was going to touch on this later, but don't panic over the 49ers, even if they lose again this week, which is likely to happen. So, but we can get to
Yeah,
that.
no, definitely don't panic on it. It's one, this is just typical growing pains of
Absolutely.
having a young quarterback. People have film, they starting to see things. But again, I'm more panicked if he's making wrong reads. He's making the right reads. He just
Exactly.
he threw the ball early. That's
Or
all this
even for
started
that
from.
matter, sometimes he's waiting for it to develop. He's looking at the right read, and the offensive line just doesn't hold up.
Right.
That's a problem that is easily fixed.
Yeah.
You chip, you bring the tight end over, you keep the running back in, whatever you got to do. But he's going to be fine. Is all I'm saying.
Right.
I don't
The only one but the part of the ball that I am like, I got at least a raised eyebrow on as a defense because Joey, like Bosa didn't do anything.
But you know what, though?
Greenlaw and like it just looked different yesterday. Like I don't and especially when you factor in Kirk Cousins Monday Night Football appearance, absence, whatever you want to call it.
he got the Andy Dalton disease where it's like in prime time it wasn't working. But here's what I'll say about that, to your point about the 49ers defense. My only pushback to that is they spend a lot more time on the field than they're used to. Because when you don't have Deebo Samuel, and even though McCaffrey, he showed up in the stat sheet, he wasn't.
He had nice carries, but he didn't really.
So
it wasn't a grind out like, hey, we got 7 yards of clock, keep running, and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel.
And so what happens is, a lot of times people who maybe you haven't played, or you're just watching as a fan, you forget they're human beings, even if they're amazing athletes. They're human beings. 5 minutes of time, like we're talking, possession, that's a huge swing in the game.
Yes.
So when you start talking about, instead of, time of possession, you had 32 minutes, and instead you only had 28 minutes, 27 minutes. That is, I personally believe that Minnesota just kept them on the field because it was really kind of a good game.
No, it was an excellent.
It was a close game until I think the bag just broke open on them. So I wouldn't worry about it because everybody, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, no matter what you think of Kirk Cousins, I've never been a super big, really high on Kirk Cousins, but he's a professional quarterback and he knows how to manipulate a defense. And so I hear what you're saying. I just think
I'm not concerned yet. But they did at least.
It makes you raise an eyebrow. Yeah, you're like,
I was the Rock with this. Like,
let me see. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those were the main ones that kind of stood out as far as storylines and different things there. There's one other story that I'll wait for my game to focus on. What game? Because I got a little rant. I got a rant at me. So go ahead.
All right.
What game? What game did you?
You coming off the bye week fresh?
Like, I'm severely annoyed, and it ain't even got nothing to do with my team. So I'll get to your game. What game stood? What was your game, Billy? What was the one that just made you like, okay, now I figured some stuff out?
There were 2 of them.
Okay.
Well, really 3 if you really get that, but they're really short. The first one that really showed me something, we already touched on it. Buffalo losing to New England, and I understand it's a division game. It's New England. It's on the road. New England was bound to bounce back, but that lets me know. That just lets me know we were right. Like, I'm not putting any faith in Buffalo. The other one that stood out to me on a more micro level, I don't know what Jordan Love is going to eventually become, but Green Bay has some real questions that they've got to answer. YouTube for what they did with all the boxes being open, and I can watch all the screens at the same time. The fact he's throwing to he's been missing some wide open receivers. With some fairly clean pockets. So I understand timing can be off and stuff, but at some point.
From a person who a long time ago used to line up
long.
I used to line up under center back in my day. I get it. So the only thing I'm saying, like, when you have it's a mental thing more than anything, because he can throw the ball, he can complete passes. But when you have people that aren't consistent with their route running, then things just start getting out of whack. His feet are terrible right now. Like, I don't know if you watched his feet
that's what I'm saying.
He doesn't have confidence in what it looks like he doesn't have confidence in where he's supposed to throw the ball, because he's not sure if that person is going to be where they're supposed to be.
Something as simple as, just to give you an example, it could be something as simple as, we need another quarterback coach. Because it's not a matter of even like overhauling the team, or we need another receivers coach, because maybe they're focused. You know how some of your coaches are better at, coming up and mixing up a game plan, and others are more focused on the technical parts of it.
Right. They in the technical portion. They need technical.
And I get the feeling that sometimes, how sometimes if you have an offensive minded coach, he's like, I don't really need nobody to be that serious. I'm a quarterback guru. Or a defensive guy's like, I don't really, we don't have to be that strong at this position group because I'm a defensive mind. They need somebody in that quarterback room.
They need somebody. They need to go back to the basics. Yeah. So I agree. So all that to say, I agree with you. I'm just saying there's levels within that.
And the only other
on taken to the
has figured out a system where he's like, we're not losing to you. Like, any of the games we're supposed to win, we getting all those. Now, I don't know how many of the games we ain't supposed to win we gonna get, but if you're a 6-7 win team, we're gonna beat you. We're gonna find a way.
But shout out to just the art of keeping a team together. You don't really see the Steelers beefing on the sidelines like that. Like, defense is just like, all right, well, it's our job. Offense is like, if you just hang in there for us, I promise we got one pass play that's going to connect at some point. Like, ain't nobody after the quarterback, even though he been really inconsistent too. It's just they just figure out a way.
He looks like, but that's the difference. Pickett and Jordan Love are almost the same comp for me.
Right.
It's just one of them plays for Pittsburgh and one of them plays in Green Bay.
Right.
But that's the thing about Pittsburgh. And like I said, shout out to Mike Tomlin, because it's like you saw what happened. Le'Veon Bell started chirping, and Antonio Brown started chirping. Chase Claypool he frowned the wrong way. And I'm gonna get to him later. But I'm gonna get to him later. But yeah, it's like, I don't know how the Steelers are doing it, but that's what stood out to me. I was like, they're gonna mess around and win 9 games again.
Yeah.
And
but the crazy thing is,
know how.
I think they know that this is like the expectation is we are winning no less than 9. We'll figure it out.
Just like I know what I'm going to get from the Ravens. They're going to cough up at least 3 games this year that they had no business losing. But then they're going to do somebody like they did Detroit. And just like, with Cincinnati, man, they're going to come out the gate. Like, they're going to drop the first 2 or 3, and then it's like, oh, write them off. And then slowly but surely, they're going to come back and start looking. Yeah, they're going to find a way to club it. So, I didn't intend for it to go that way with the division, but that division looks exactly like we thought it was going to look.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, just go and sit back, man.
All right, I got time. He fresh off the bye week, y'all.
So
let's do it.
This ain't even my squad, and I'm this mad. I ain't got a dog in any part of this fight. Ain't even my division, and I'm this mad. I don't know which side of the story to take. You know what? I'll take the Browns side of the story first. I'm gonna take the Browns side of the story first. Deshaun Watson. Bruh, you gonna get some money back? Like, what we doing here? This is easily turning out to be the worst contract and trade in the history of sport.
In the history of
no, not just football. I'm talking about history
humanity.
Of sports. I don't know what they got going over in Greece and Czechoslovakia. I'm sure they got a bad trade going on over there. But as far as the good old US of A, this is the worst trade that has taken place on American soil.
Somewhere Herschel Walker is like, thank you.
It was Jamal Adams until this moment.
You know what? I forgot about Jamal. No. What's my man DC? Came from the Titans.
Oh, Albert Haynesworth. His wasn't a trade though. His was just a straight $100 million contract. You know right. He became the first $100 million man. That was still terrible too. That still ranks up there. We not forgetting about you, Albert.
We forgot about you, Albert. But no, yeah, you're right. This it's not over yet. But yeah, man, you might be right. This could be all time when they do the top 10 on Sports.
There's going to be a 30 for 30 about this. Because shoulder hurt, something hurt.
The doctor said you're cleared, and the coach was like, "Nah, we straight."
And they went to PJ Walker and looked decent doing it. And so that's my Cleveland just being Cleveland. Now Myles Garrett is a whole superhero out on the football field. So he's erasing the fact that you are Cleveland.
Yeah.
He is
single-handedly by himself. He almost gives me Reggie White vibes. Reggie White was that kind of force.
Yes, absolutely. But Myles Garrett is taking it up a leap because, no pun intended, he leaping over and blocking.
That man literally jumped over it. Like they wanted to throw a flag, like that's illegal, and he was like, "He ain't touched nobody.
He ain't touched nobody." Now, keep in mind, this man is also 6'7", 6'6", 6'7", 285 pounds.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And he's doing this. He's jumping over humans, like other grown humans that are professional athletes. He got strip sacks. He got fumble recoveries. He got, like, you name it, he did it in that game. But now we on to the refs.
It ain't over. Yep.
We are on to the refs. The Colts got every right to be as pissed as they want to be after that hot mess that was there.
They are punching the air something serious.
My man fumbled, and they called a hold. All right, cool. I'm not a big fan of the hold when it doesn't affect the actual play, but call
Yeah, okay.
fine, go ahead and call it.
Right, got it.
But that pass interference, where the ball landed next to the cameraman, and you called a pass interference and gave them extra downs on the 1 yard line. Now, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
We actually held, and you was like, "Nah, we ain't gonna let you do it."
Now we're gonna pull this flag out. We're gonna put this on the ground. Like I'm perfectly cool if they investigate them and find out where the money. I need to find the money trail on this one. Because,
and you know what? Real quick, Andre, and this is the second week in a row that Cleveland has benefited from legendarily awful officiating. Like y'all did it to the 49ers. Now, granted, the 49ers didn't play that great, so you know they
came out in the wash.
But the Colts are scrappy and they working hard out here.
The Colts, like to your point, San Fran didn't deserve to win the game last week.
Colts did.
The Colts absolutely deserved to win that football game. They did everything they were supposed to win the football game, and the referees decided, no, I don't really feel that.
Let's give Cleveland another shot. With a $230 million guaranteed quarterback sitting on the sideline.
On the sidelines. Clapping.
He was like, nah. So whenever you start hearing about the boogeyman and Vegas and conspiracies and Roger Goodell and how, you know, there's somebody working behind and paying the refs off, you're not helping
at all. Like we looking squarely in this game film is an exact review of it, of saying something got to be up with this. And if the league don't come out and talk bad about these refs, it's gonna look bad on the entire league for that one, because outside of the fact that you cost them people money in gambling, that's an inherent risk that you take, but you costing people's jobs.
Yeah.
When you get to the end of the year and you are 8-9 instead of 9-8, and they're saying, "Oh, we need to look to go somewhere else." Well, one of these games, you remember that we got the positive ownership don't care nothing about that at the end of the day. They're gonna look at you and say, "Look, you finished 8-9. That's below our expectations. Move your family to Denver or something." They looking. I'm sure they'll be hired. So that is, I was beyond furious just because I'm not a typical like fan person. Like I watch football.
Yeah,
like,
it's hard. We
all
can't
these games. And if somebody getting hosed, I'm gonna acknowledge they getting hosed. Like when I was watching the Eagles and the Dolphins, and my man got the roughing the passer call on Jalen Hurts, I was like, "Ooh, that's terrible." Like I can call a bad call.
My integrity for the game supersedes my fandom.
Absolutely.
At some point, I have to be honest. Like I gotta call it what it is. I don't care who I want to win. That's just wrong.
And again, I don't like the Colts or Cleveland, and I was fire hot when I saw what was going on. Wow. So that was just a little bit much. Yeah. So moving on.
You feel better?
I feel better. I feel cleansed now. Okay. All right. So from who last week, we're gonna just run through the quick ballers real quick. Who was balling out for you this past week?
Well, number one, low hanging fruit here, but big shout out to Lamar Jackson. That was just ridiculous. It would be easy to go Patrick Mahomes, but nah, man. You know what I'm saying? Like
everybody getting a career high against the Chargers. They don't even
right. It's like, come on, man, cut that out. And granted, it could be Mahomes fatigue, but it's not even that. Lamar,
absolutely
like
not.
He went crazy. But going back to the Chargers and the Chiefs game, I don't know what they haven't really defined what they're doing or what that is. Whatever Taylor Swift got with Travis Kelce, I'm gonna need them to break up for the playoffs or finish whatever project they're working on or something, because we can't have this.
It is working,
man. This is
my man out there balling. When
Tay
in the stands, he putting up Hall of Fame like numbers in a game.
He's like, I need to get to Canton tonight. Like, I want my bus in Canton this week. Okay. I mean, who gets 179 yards
From the tight end position
Ooh,
against a team that has real good safeties?
who actually got people that are like over the top assigned to make sure that you don't get that deep. You're not. He's not supposed to be. And he's so. I ain't got one.
Man,
So, yeah.
I get it. No, I dig that one. So for me, we'll start in reverse order. We might as well go ahead and make it easy. While we talking about people balling out, AJ Brown is a whole grown man.
Oh my gosh.
He like grown. Like get off me. Stop touching me.
I just don't like him, right?
I dig it.
But the thing is, I'm becoming a bit of a fan. My heart, The coldness is thawing. I'm actually, and I ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of lightweight, kind of rooting for him because I kind of feel like people have, again, this is my integrity.
Like
I have to be fair. Yes.
I was never like growing up, never Dan Marino fan. I can
Mm.
acknowledge Dan Marino was a baller though.
Oh man, Dan Marino.
He was it.
Quick,
Like,
still to this day, probably quickest release you've ever seen in your
you know,
life.
but
Looked like
he-
you shot out of a gun. Yeah.
he wasn't my style, but I can still acknowledge it. You know, that dude's cold. Like,
Yeah.
so that's why I feel like where I am with Kirk Cousins is he ain't me, you know, that ain't my cup of tea, but he balling. Like, and he doing it when it counts. So the fact that he stepped up on Monday night and did that, shout out to Kirk Cobain.
Okay.
So now we're moving on. Now we got all the last week and all that out of our system.
Mhm.
Now we're coming up to this week.
Mhm.
And there's some real games going on this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some real games. So what I already know one that's sticking out in your calendar, but go ahead and talk about it. Go ahead and get it out your system.
So I got quite a few of them on here this week. And I'm trying to remember who has a bye this week. Is there anybody that has a bye this week?
Yeah. Now who has the bye is a great question. But yeah, there's a bye.
I don't think there are. I think this is the 1 week where they don't have any buys because it was a weird the way the schedule was set up.
Really?
Because I think they have a total of 16. They got a full, because I'm looking at the 4 o'clock games, they have 4 of them. So yeah, I don't think there's anybody with a bye.
Oh, there's no buys during week 8 or week 12. And for people who watching this on YouTube, I'm the de facto producer of this show, so I'm typing at the same time that we doing all this.
Right.
So mind your business.
I knew there was I thought there were 3 of them, but if you said week 8 and week 2, I thought there were like 2 or 3 weeks where there were no buys this year. And some of that has to do with the way that they set up the London and London and the Germany.
Because they got London and Germany. So that makes sense.
It's not that they're being unfair. It's just they were like, we don't need them. Because those end up becoming partial buys and then they whatever. However, I don't know what the reason, but this week I don't think there's a buy. That being said, and I know you all, we talk about it like don't take my advice for gambling, and I'm going to stand by that. But I'm gonna go ahead before we even get to the bets. Bengals they're gonna thump the 49ers.
Ooh.
Now the 49ers are going to come back after that, but they got softened up. Here's the deal. Short week.
Mm-hmm.
Bengals coming off of a bye. It's a 4 o'clock game for Cincinnati, but the start time and stuff like that isn't as much of a factor. The Bengals, unlike in previous iterations, have shown they don't care. Like they'll travel to wherever you want to travel, and they're a real team now. It ain't like back in the day when it was like, oh yeah, the Bengals have a one on the West. I remember years ago, back when we were like kids. I remember it was like, oh man, the Bengals haven't won a game since 1979 in this particular time slot on the West Coast. That's gone. Those days been gone. So book that. As far as games that I'm interested in that I'm not a fan of, or I don't really care about the team, I am particularly interested because of how relatively weak this division is. I am particularly interested to see what Tennessee is going to be able to do with Atlanta. Atlanta comes to Tennessee. It's a 1 o'clock game, so it's not like it's some weird time slot. It's not in prime time or whatever. Nobody's really going to be paying attention to that, but there's people who are suddenly jumping on the Atlanta bandwagon and people who have jumped off of the Tennessee bandwagon. And I almost think that's a little bit of a mistake. So from that standpoint, I think that's going to be a competitive game between teams who I don't really think are going anywhere.
Bet the under.
Yeah, well, okay, definitely bet the under because Tennessee aren't they coming off a bye? I think they had a bye this week, wasn't it?
No,
If
the
I'm not mistaken.
Titans lost, I think, last week.
No, wait a minute. No.
Maybe they didn't.
Tennessee was on a bye. It was the
Yeah,
Jets.
yeah.
So they're coming off a bye. Definitely bet the under because that defense is rested and they've had nothing but 2 weeks to look at Atlanta. Yeah, they're coming. So teams that I don't believe are going anywhere, but that's an interesting game. Another game that I am also interested in because of how it affects a team that I care about. I am interested to see what Jacksonville does going to Pittsburgh. I think
that is going to be a good one.
Somebody's going to get hurt. Let's just put it that way. There's going to be a lot of thumping and a lot of bruises and a lot of timeouts for injury in that game. I think I ain't wishing it on nobody. That's one of those games where I'm like, I care to see who survives that one. Because I'm honestly, as much as I trust Pittsburgh's defense, I don't trust Kenny Pickett yet. And yet, Jacksonville, even though their record, and they've kind of righted the ship after starting off kind of rocky the first couple of weeks, their defense has some holes. If Kenny Pickett is going to get right against a decent team, this would be the one to try it against. The only other things that kind of stand out to me are because I fully expect Detroit's going to right the ship on Monday night. I think that even though Buffalo isn't going to do much this year, I really think at home they're going to probably waste Tampa Bay, and then everybody's going to jump back on, and that'll be a mistake. The last thing that stands out to me is I need the Ravens to watch out. Do not take the Arizona Cardinals lightly because y'all might just mess around and find out. Like the Arizona's not tanking, people. This is they don't the team doesn't know they're tanking.
I was about to say the players on the field do not know that they're tanking.
The Bidwell family is completely frustrated, okay? Because they trying to get Caleb Williams in the building and let go of study hall. Like they trying to get this thing right, man. Listen. So while the Ravens, I fully expect them just as professional and as much as I don't care for the team, Harbaugh is Harbaugh and whatever. But that is a trap, especially after coming off such a great win. Trap game central. You got to go on the other side of the country and fool around with a team that don't know they're tanking. So that's one of them. Just it's worth keeping an eye on and don't bet that game.
Oh yeah,
you have no idea what's going to happen.
Right.
After that, I'm not talking about the outcome, who's going to win. I'm just saying you don't know if you're going to get the over, the under. You don't know what the spread. Like, don't touch that game because I think it's I think the Ravens are at this point are 8-point favorites or something.
I got it right here. The Ravens are 8.5.
8.5 on going to the West Coast on the road. What? That means they believe they're gonna beat them by 11 plus. Nah, man. Nope.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I dig it. That's a tricky
one. Vegas trying to get all their money back from the Patriots.
But no, the Browns, the Browns and the Seahawks. I'm curious to see how that plays out if karma comes back for the Browns because again, they definitely didn't deserve to win last week. But
I have a really strong opinion on that, and that's why I didn't touch it.
But then, I'm also I know people looking at records and things like that, but do not Cowboys fans, sleep on the fact that the Rams are coming into your place.
Rams don't know they tanking either.
The Rams definitely don't know they tanking. Yeah. Like, because again, they just playing with young people. You're gonna ride the wave with young people, but to think that Matthew Stafford ain't got the arm and the sling to be able to take advantage of the Cowboy secondary, because against Paul's best wishes, we keep telling you that with your boy being out, teams with multiple number one wide receivers are going to give problems to the Cowboys. Absolutely. And this Puka Nacua, this dude is a whole dude out there.
I didn't even give him his shout out as far as somebody who stood out, just because, man, it's every week at this point,
right? Like, he just out here.
Like I'm that man. I'm that dude. Like, what you mean? Give me a shot. It's almost like Travis Kelce's putting up mind-blowing numbers. Puka's like, this is kind of the standard. Like, what did he get? 150 last week?
Yeah.
That's what he does. Like, what we surprised about?
So now you adding, a healthy Cooper Kupp to it. So they got the two number ones, balling. So without Trayvon Diggs, it's just I might be cajoled into picking the Rams over the Cowboys. I'm just saying, it ain't got nothing to do with my hate for the Cowboys, because I love money more than anything else. But I'm looking at that. That was an interesting one. I'm gonna let it play out a little bit, but that's an interesting one. Right. And then, we don't give enough shout out to it on, or we don't talk about it as much. But I'm looking forward to seeing if Colorado bounces back from tricking off the game against Stanford when they got UCLA this week. Coming off a bye, maybe they got their mind right to be able to finish the long haul here. I'm looking forward to that. Duke and Louisville is Louisville's homecoming. Shout out to my pops. His team is being honored at halftime for the 1968 season. I want to say this for Louisville. But
1968,
yeah, but they being honored at halftime. And it's homecoming. So if Louisville wins, they in the driver's seat to play for the ACC championship there. So I am looking forward to that as well. Within those games. And then it's just a fun time of year, man. Like the Big Ten, the
weather's good.
The real side of the Big Ten. They in the round robin tournament now at this point. So I'm looking forward to what's going on there.
You said the real side.
We all know the other side. Not the other side, dog. Not the other side. But
State fan, we used to go to Ohio State. I care about them in the Big Ten. I'll say this. I'm not predicting upset, but I will say I don't think Penn State has recovered quite yet. And I kind of got a feeling Indiana's gonna make them work. So keep your eye out. I got Indiana making them work, because Indiana's one of those teams where you almost have to be so much more dominant than them that they'll kind of lay down, but they don't lay down easy.
Right. Yeah. If you let them hang around, they'll be like, all right.
If you let them hang around. I get the feeling that there may be some stuff going on, and plus Lincoln Riley, I think he got sick or something like that. So he hasn't even been to practice this week.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Which I mean, obviously they don't, you know what I'm saying? Like they're a machine at this point. But Lincoln Riley has been showing it's almost like the same things we saw. We thought, oh, well, that's because it was Oklahoma, and they ready to be the big brother in the conference with the Big 12, whatever. He's starting to show some holes because as much as everybody's focused on Caleb Williams, listen, Caleb Williams does not play defense
At all. Ain't never played defense.
Everybody blamed Oklahoma and just the environment in the Big 12, and they can't recruit, certain players and athletes or whatever. And now I'm looking at USC giving up. Like, even the first sign was the fact that how did y'all let Colorado run up and down the field on y'all? It was a track meet, and y'all just happen to have Caleb Williams. But I mean, there's some problems at USC, and I think California is going to have something to say about it because they've lost some really tough ones. Now, granted, they haven't been just losing to like Idaho. Oh no, I'm sorry, they didn't lose to Idaho. They who was it they lost to? Because even though the Utah game was lopsided, it wasn't as lopsided as the score would indicate. And then, but you think about their losses. They lost to Washington, who is Washington. They lost to Auburn. They lost to Utah, and then I think they lost to like Oregon State. They haven't. I mean, they lost to some really good teams.
No, absolutely.
So California is going to have something to say to USC, and I almost wonder if they're kind of demoralized. Everybody's talking about, oh, Caleb Williams. People talking about Caleb Williams should sit out. That's just dumb. But yeah, man, that's another college game. I would kind of, if you care to stay up.
That's the thing. But there's one more, and Paul's gonna love the fact that this is the action that we're looking at. But that Oregon Utah game is gonna be a de facto. Somebody ain't coming.
Somebody is a knockout. Yeah. Somebody ain't gonna come out of that alive.
Yeah. So that one, I'll definitely keep my eye on that one too, for sure.
And isn't that wait a minute, because if I'm not mistaken, Oregon now, I want to say that's not even late. That's going to be
both
of them are actually afternoon. So the California USC game, I think, is a 4:00 start. This one is like what 3:30 it says. So you ain't even gotta I ain't even gotta be tired when I get to church on Sunday. I ain't gonna stay up. Man, listen, I still haven't recovered from that Colorado
State game that ended about 4 a.m.
Oh, they had like a couple of because then they played. Who was it? USC. Who went to like triple overtime?
That was the Colorado State game.
No, the one they lost.
Oh, the I went to sleep when they lost to.
But that's the point. Then I woke up and it was like they had a dog fight.
Yeah, the Stanford game. Yeah,
Stanford. Yeah. So I still haven't. Anyway, it's some good college games out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now we on to the fun side, which is the part, again, go ahead and give us the disclaimer, Billy.
As always, please do not take any of our comments regarding gambling as advice that you should go out and follow. If you have a gambling problem, we really do suggest on all seriousness that you go get help. We're just not the place to get said help because we got problems too.
Absolutely. So what bet you got for the people this time?
So I'll keep it clean on the NFL side, and then I got a couple of college ones.
Okay.
In the NFL, as much as I absolutely cannot stand taking Thursday night games, I just can't stand it. Because you just never know what you're going to get. I hate to say this. Go ahead and take the Bills. Go ahead and take the Bills. Whether it's cover or straight up, because I think they're only like 4 points. I want to say they're 4 points, 4 or 5 points, something like that against Tampa. Take the Bills, whether you want to take them straight up on the money line or you want to take them on the spread. Don't take the over the under now, not on a Thursday. Please don't do that on a Thursday. But take the Bills. So that's my first one. Take the Bengals. I think the Bengals are they getting points? Like getting 2, I think.
Bengals are getting 5.5.
Take the Bengals. Take the Bengals. And I'm not even saying that because I'm a Bengal fan. I'm just saying the San Francisco 49ers have been softened up. I mean, they've taken a beating 2 weeks in a row.
They are tenderized.
They are tenderized, and the Bengals are getting right. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying the Bengals are going to run away with this. I'm simply saying if they're giving you points, San Francisco's not going to beat Cincinnati by a touchdown. That's all I'm saying. Take the Bengals, get your money. Even if you don't want to take them straight up, take the spread.
Mm-hmm.
Take the points they're giving you on that one. I'm going to also say, I really, first of all, stay away from that New York game. Just stay away.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Run as far away from you can from that one. Even though I'm on Brandon Staley watch, stay away from Chicago Chargers. Monday night, take Detroit. It's easy money. I know a lot of times people don't want to wait for their money, and so they want to get all the Sunday. No, just go ahead. That's an easy one. If you've already gotten your 3-leg or 4-leg parlay, go ahead and take that easy one. Detroit at home on Monday night. They haven't had a Monday night game there in like I think 4 years, 5 years.
They about to party on that one,
man. Jared, if you can get to a casino and you can do a prop bet for Jared Goff, whatever you can get for him, he mad. Jared Goff is mad, man, because he don't like the way he left Los Angeles. It's still sticking in his craw a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, what I will say, and this is my last NFL game before we go to college, go ahead and this. I know this sounds like, well, how easy is that? Take Kansas City.
Yeah, I was looking at that. Like, why is the spread 8?
Because, first of all, because it's in Denver. Secondly, because I think people are expecting there to be kind of a letdown.
Like they just bored.
Here's the deal. I think, basically they're playing. You know how it is. You get bored with it. It's a division game. You don't want to give it too much. Whatever. Taylor Swift's gonna be there. Okay, so
which means Kelsey going for at least $150. He at least got $150 and 3 touchdowns in him.
They're gonna have to make a whole new category of tight end records. Let them fool around and get married and have a baby.
Oh man,
what? He might play till he's 50. Anyway, so that's there on the that's my so that's it on the pro side. And then a couple quick ones real quick. Stay away from Ohio State, Wisconsin. It's not because I don't believe Ohio State is going to win, but just don't touch that game. If you want to pick a game like a Big Ten game or something like that, there's really no good ones on the board as far as I'm concerned, except maybe if you want to go ahead and do that Nebraska-Purdue one, because I really do think that, frankly, Nebraska is just a better team. That's number one. Number two, Colorado versus UCLA. I know it's not super popular to pick that one. But what is do you have that in front of you, what the over under is?
I had it. Give me 1 second and I can have it again. The over under on that one.
It's got to be 50 something.
63.5.
63.5.
63.5, and UCLA is given 17.
Giving 17?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, take the Buffaloes. They're not going to beat them by 3 touchdowns. They're just not going to beat them by 3 touchdowns. Okay, so there's that. Last 2 college ones I'll give you. First of all, stay away from Georgia, Florida. Something tells me that Georgia's been playing with their food a little bit too much. Do not touch that game. The last one I will give you is Florida State. Was it Wake Forest?
Yep.
I actually like Wake Forest to keep that close. What's the spread on that? Was it
20.5?
Wake Forest, they're not going to beat them by 3 touchdowns. Wake Forest is really, really tough. Take that one. take Wake Forest, not to win. Go ahead and get your spread. Don't take them straight up. Don't be stupid. Right. But yeah, take that spread.
Okay. All right. I like those. So for me, I'm gonna go ahead and put it down. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the board. Rams
He done licked
over
his
the
lips.
Cowboys.
Yeah. Rams over Cowboys.
Rams over the Cowboys.
Really?
Put it on the board. We going there. We
doing
are
this?
putting that one down.
We're
I
doing
already
this?
told you to bet the under for the Falcons and the Titans. The over under is 36.5, which ain't a lot of points.
Man.
But unless you've watched them play, they don't score a lot of points.
It will require two block punts and a butt fumble to get over 36 in that game.
And may still need a pick six to close it out. Like those offenses are not.
There will not
looking
be
to put
much
them on.
offense. Yeah.
Mm-mm. So that one, and then one more for good measure. Let's see. Ew, the rest of these are real difficult.
Yeah, man.
Like I can see the Bears Chargers going either way.
Stay away.
Yeah, stay away from that.
Rest of them are almost over unders. It's like
yeah, the rest of those are real crickety. I will say if you think Jacksonville is going to beat the Steelers, go ahead and take Jacksonville. They're giving up 2.5.
Oh, really?
So that's a decent one.
That's in Pittsburgh, though, right? Field goal
in Pittsburgh. So that's a decent one though.
Ooh.
That's a decent one if you just need to fulfill a bet.
TJ Watt and Minka are like, hey man, I heard what you said.
They and you know what? I'm very hard pressed against betting against them, but you know, like I said,
but they still got Pickett. They
Yeah,
still got Kenny Pickett at quarterback.
Yeah. So if you feel in Jacksonville, that would be a good one to take. You know, there. As far as college, I'm still going with Louisville over Duke. It's 4. It's in.
I got
Louisville.
that being a good game, and I got that being scary too. But because it's homecoming,
yeah, and like I said, they got new life. They lost. Louisville lost last week, or not the week prior. They had a bye last week. They lost the week prior. So they should come out pretty angry. Duke just had a battle with Florida State, so they're a little bit beat up. So, but all that to say, Louisville by 4 shouldn't be impossible. And then one to keep your eye on, the Notre Dame Pitt game. I don't think weather's going to permit Notre Dame to beat Pitt by 20.
Because it's supposed to be like freezing cold.
Yeah,
like, ain't nobody gonna want to hit in that game.
And the point spread is 20 in favor of Notre Dame. So that would be one to definitely keep an eye on there as well. Because it's going to be 44 at kickoff, and it's going to get uglier as the time goes. So that's the one that I also look at. So, but again, these are just our thoughts, people. Don't bet on these. Don't, or at least if you bet, just don't say I told you to do it.
Not your rent money.
No, not your rent money, because the landlord ain't playing. He want all his tax.
He don't care nothing about your favorite conference. And then you know what? Let me throw one last one in here.
Okay.
Really too. If you really just feel like you got to add an extra leg to your parlay, take Oklahoma over Kansas. I know it's a 10-point spread. Oklahoma has shown me enough with Gabriel that I actually believe that they're that much more dominant in the Big 12. Like, they're the only legitimate Big 12 team that even more so than like Texas. They're the real deal. So take that, because they're getting 10, I think.
And they had this scare last week with Central Florida. So
that's right. And then the last one, which I'm not even telling you to bet this one. I just think it's going to be a good game. Tennessee has to go up the road to Lexington and play Kentucky. I got that being just one of them, like, tradition. And then my last one, because I know I've been saying this a lot, stay away from North Carolina, Georgia Tech.
Yeah, you don't know what's going on. That's you
Georgia
definitely.
Tech is just weird to play against.
Yeah.
And North Carolina, for whatever reason, I don't know, that there may be a hangover from that loss. So stay away from North Carolina, Georgia Tech. Save your money.
Shout out to Virginia though.
Man,
Shout out to
love
Virginia
it.
overcoming everything that
Absolutely.
program has been through to come up with a top 10 win.
Absolutely.
That is bigger than football. I promise.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and here's the thing. Let's be honest, because I've been privately rooting for North Carolina. That's been one of my teams I really like. But the fact is, man, everything that Virginia went through, like, you can't even be mad. You can't even be mad at the fact that they pulled that off, man. That was a great story. Because I think they only got 3 wins this year.
I believe that was the second win. They might have 3 if they played like a truly lower level school, but
yeah,
they had come close for a couple games during the year and just couldn't
finish.
pull it out.
Yeah, they just couldn't finish. And it just morale mentally, man. It's hard when you lose somebody. True story. When I was in high school, and I won't get into any names or whatever, but when I was in high school, a guy on our football team, he was senior captain, he ended his life in the middle of the season. And it was just like, we never recovered, mentally. And I know that's not the same circumstances that you have in Virginia, plus, high school, college, whatever, you can talk about the differences. But, and we weren't even particularly, it wasn't like we were particularly close or anything, but it was just like, when you deal with tragedy, and it's a teammate, and in their case, it was multiple teammates. Like, it's hard, no matter how much, no matter how tough you are. It's hard, and they need to be commended for the grit and just really overcoming who most people thought was a superior team, but they had the will and the toughness and the preparation. They did everything they had to do it. I mean, I'm sure it was very emotional for them. So definitely.
Absolutely. So that was their second win. They beat William and Mary last week.
Yeah.
And then the North Carolina.
So maybe they're putting something together. They're kind of that private team that everybody's rooting for, or at least you should be. Right. Because that's a tough human story.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
So shout out to them.
And last thing, Michigan. This ain't even got nothing to do with it. I'm not even going to address you as that team up north or, whatever. Michigan, come on, do better, man. And I know there's people out in the media, and I won't name names because I won't even add credence and credibility to it, that are coming up with excuses. Oh, well, everybody, this is different. There's a reason.
If there was a rule and they broke it, they
take it. Everybody. Here's the thing. For those who don't know the story, everybody scouts other teams, and they have people that go look and take notes and look for little edges and little signs and things like that. Man, y'all taking it too far, man. Like, this is it's weird to the point where they've gotten so much, they've done so much like private work to cheat and get signs that like they're actually in game queuing stuff and telling people on the field like, oh, they about to run this route and this is what the audible. It's like, come on, man. Like, win straight up. And that's why y'all be getting slapped in the playoffs. That's why y'all get in the playoffs. Y'all got the best record. Everybody's like, oh, they're my sleeper team. That's why y'all getting slapped in the playoffs. You can do that against Ohio State. You don't know who you're gonna play in the playoffs.
Right.
And that's why Alabama is smacking you upside your head. Right? Really, all those years in a row where you couldn't beat Ohio State, it drove you to this. Like, come on, man. Do better. So that's all I'm gonna say about it. For now. I'll be back. I'm gonna see you in a few weeks, but do better, man. Stop cheating.
Hut!
All right. Well, that's it. Thanks again for joining us on our weekly wrap-up show. We want to say thank you once again for taking the time to join us. Week 8 is upon us. No buys this week. Next week, Paul will be back, no doubt. Remember that absolutely none of our comments regarding gambling are to be considered advice for you to follow. And if you have a gambling problem, we seriously suggest and hope that you will go out and find some help. even though we are not the place to get that help. We look forward to all the action, both in college and the NFL. Hopefully your team wins. Hopefully everything works out for you. Have some fun. And most importantly, be safe, be kind, be blessed.